Hey, what's up everybody? Hammer Heart Metal Reviews here once again. We're doing another brand new album review for you today, and we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite bands, Enslaved. So they have just dropped their 16th studio album yesterday, March 3rd, 2023, titled Heimdal. So if you're not familiar with the band, obviously 16 albums deep, they have been around a very long time. These days they play a unique blend of like progressive metal with black metal and Viking metal. Early in their career was very much in the black metal vein with Viking metal themes, and over the course of time have brought in more and more progressive elements, and they really just uniquely sound like Enslaved. There's not really any other band that sounds exactly like this, maybe some similar ones, but not like this. Enslaved is one of my favorite bands for a reason. They have one of the best discographies around, pretty much flawless, like 16 albums in, and they're still putting out quality material. One of my favorite bands for a reason. This album is 7 tracks and 50 minutes long, so very long songs for sure, but they don't feel long. So I'm going to give you a track-by-track run-through. I'll give you my thoughts on this album as a whole, and I'll score it out of 10 at the end. So as a whole, this album feels very big. It's very grandiose. It's got this very proggy soundscape like no one else does. Enslaved just captures those atmospheres and feelings perfectly like no one else does. The one thing that I will say that is a slight disappointment to me on this album is that out of these 7 songs, 4 of the songs have already been previously released. Like, there was an EP a couple years ago called Caravans to the Outer Worlds that featured the song Caravans to the Outer Worlds. And then earlier this year, they released the EP Forest Dweller that featured 4 of these songs. So more than half of this album I'm already very familiar with. I'm not saying it's not good. I love those 4 tracks, but a little disappointed that there's not more brand new material that I haven't heard before. With those 4 songs, yes, they're great, but I wanted more than 3 other new songs. Since they've already been released, I would have liked a handful of more material to listen to, but nonetheless, I digress. Let's get into this. So this album, it does really follow in a similar style to some of their last few albums, the more modern era in their career, if you will, but there's still enough uniqueness here to really give this album its own identity, separate from previous albums like Utgard or E, like the previous couple that were right before this. So the album kicks off with the song Behind the Mirror. It's a very interesting way to open up the album. It starts with these horns and the splashing of water. It really gives it this epic Viking atmosphere. And then it goes into a really interesting riff and these epic clean vocals, which are throughout this album. There are a ton of epic clean vocals here. But that being said, don't forget about Grudel as well with his trademark black metal rasps. One of my favorite black metal vocalists out there. He comes in a couple minutes in and wow, vicious as ever. There's just layers and layers to this song and album. So much to unpeel here. Just progressive riffs over the backdrop of keyboards throughout this song. And like I said, yeah, really interesting way to open up the album. After that, the second track, Congelia. This was one of the pre-release tracks. One of the most aggressive songs on the album for sure. It's got this really fast-paced, aggressive opening. It's chaotic, yet they're still keeping it in control, like barely, just in control. It's got these really like weird timed riffs and song structure throughout this whole thing, but they make it work. The harsh vocals are really on point here. Like I said, one of my favorite black metal vocalists out there. He never disappoints. Grudel Shelson, amazing, amazing stuff. And it closes out with some clean vocals, which once again are really awesome as well. Definitely a great song. After that, the third track, Forest Dweller, is probably one of my favorites on the album. It's got these really nice opening riffs to the song. And then it goes into this like subdued, almost peaceful, meditative section with clean vocals. Like you just relax, you close your eyes and just drift off to this section. But then all of a sudden it explodes and it's just an awesome transition where the harsh vocals come in. Like I said, one of my favorite tracks on the album for sure. Easily one of the standouts. After that, the fourth track, Kingdom. I absolutely love the proggy riffing to open up this song, and it just takes you on a journey, this whole song. There's some really catchy riffs that are definitely going to stick in your head, and it really builds up throughout this song to a really aggressive climax to close it off. Another really well done song. After that, the fifth song, The Eternal Sea. This has got a really slow climb for the first couple minutes with just an instrumental build-up. but then the clean vocals throughout this song are really the star of the show here. It's really clean vocals over nice riffing for probably 3/4 of the song before eventually it picks up the pace in the last couple minutes and some harsh vocals come in, but then it does go back to these epic clean vocals to close it off, and it's got this really like odd, interesting, tiny little keyboard outro. But yeah, all in all, still a pretty decent song. After that, the 6th track, Caravans to the Outer World, another standout track, one of the pre-released ones, which has been released a couple times, but nonetheless, it's an awesome song, so I understand why. It's one of my favorites on the album. I absolutely love that high energy on this song. It's got this really upbeat tempo and in-your-face aggressiveness, but then there's also ebbs and flows between those aggressive moments and then some more mellow, clean sections as well, and they really just work. They know how to balance it and just mesh it all together so that it just sounds like Enslaved, and yeah, standout track here for sure. Then it goes into the closing track, the title track, Heimdal. This is the longest track on the album, and this goes in a completely different direction. It starts really heavy and doomy. The riffs almost remind me of like a band like early Black Sabbath, which I don't hear Enslaved do too much doom influence stuff too often, but it really works. It goes in different directions after that as well. It's not just a straight doom song, but they really put the Enslaved stamp on this style, and it really works. It's a very enjoyable song and a great way to close out the album with something different, but that's going to be memorable and stick in your head. So, my initial impressions of this album, I feel like as a whole, this is not having as much of an immediate impact on me as some of their other more recent albums. I can tell this is going to be a grower though, like this is only based on my first initial listens. These type of albums, really to judge them, I need months with them. After just a few days, I can't really be fair with this because these type of progressive albums that have so many layers, it's like an onion. You got to unpeel all these layers. You got to spend time with it to really understand and get these songs. So yeah, like I said, maybe even my score here is going to be on the lower side, but it doesn't mean I don't like it. I know this is probably going to grow and I will come to love it even more than I already do. But if I'm going to score this out of 10 right now, just based on these initial impressions, if you've watched my rankings before, anything that hits 7.5 out of 10 is something that I would strongly recommend. If it reaches towards 8, that's like really awesome. If it reaches towards 9, that's like next level. So based on everything I just said, this is still easily hitting 7.5 out of 10, but I don't know if I can give it an 8 out of 10 quite yet. It's just not quite on that level, at least initially. I'm going to give it a 7.8 out of 10. It's very close. It's right on that level. Like I said, in time, this could even climb higher. I do enjoy this album still a lot, and as I spend more time with it, I'm sure I may come back to this review and be like, wow, what was I thinking? It's way better than my initial impressions. But yeah, nonetheless, I do still enjoy it. I think it's solid. It's not my favorite Enslaved album by any means, but it's not my least favorite either. They have no bad albums, and this one did not ruin that streak. It's still a very good album that you should definitely go check out if you have not. So anyways, if you have listened to this album, give me your thoughts on it down below. Let me know what you think. And until next time, Heimdal Reviews out.